identifying the members of the Cult of the Black Goat remains a compelling mystery. But here on this channel, we're slowly getting to the truth. Today, we'll be taking a look at two more characters who do not appear in the epilogue, and thus have been a subject of speculation. One of the Smelters fans, and Mr. Salvi. But before I continue, if you are a Night in the Woods fan, then please be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting my channel on Patreon or through a YouTube channel membership. Any support you can give, in whatever form it takes, is much appreciated. It's football season, so let's kick things off with the Smelters fan. There are two Smelters fans in game, a bird and a crocodile. They can be interacted with every day on the front porch of Miller's Bar, though neither of them address May directly until the epilogue. Typically, their conversations start off about work, but they always find their way back to the Smelters. The Smelters, by the way, are an obvious nod to the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of a plethora of Western Pennsylvania references you'll find in Night in the Woods. In any case, talking about the Smelters is peak water cooler conversation for these two, just as it is for fans of the real-life team. Based on the way they dress, jeans and work boots, we can conclude that they work blue-collar jobs, likely construction or landscaping. The fact that they're regulars at Miller's tells us a lot about them as well, though, honestly, to call them regulars is a bit of an understatement. Typically, a regular at a bar is someone who shows up frequently, like a few times a week. But the Smelters fans are there literally every single day. That's a step beyond a regular if you ask me. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that they might be alcoholics, a fact that is supported by the bird's bloodshot eyes. Regardless, even if their drinking habits haven't turned to addiction, it's clear that they're using their visits to the bar to escape from something. This, of course, is hardly a surprise in a town like Possum Springs, where many folks, including May's own father, have used the bottle to escape from the economic realities facing Rust Belt America. Now, in the original version of the game, the crocodile disappeared without a trace, which caused many to speculate that he was a member of the cult. But the Weird Autumn edition changed this, and altered the dialogue between the two Smelters fans significantly. On day 11, just before May's encounter with the cult, the crocodile reveals that he got a new job and will be leaving town soon. Understandably, the bird is quite upset about this, but May can lift his spirits by talking about the Smelters with him during the epilogue. So although it's certainly not impossible for the crocodile to be a cult member, I find it to be unlikely, as the game provides another, far more plausible reason for his absence. In addition, leaving Possum Springs for work is antithetical to the beliefs of the cult. They want people to stay in Possum Springs despite the declining job market, not move away in search of greener pastures. That's basically a cardinal sin in their eyes, making it hard for me to believe that the Crocodile Smelters fan is a cult member. Next, let's take a look at Mr. Salvi. One of several characters added to the game through the Weird Autumn update, Mr. Salvi appears on day 9, and takes May on a trip through the flooded part of the trolley tunnel on his boat, the Junebug. Though I'm sure Mr. Salvi is happy to have some company on the journey, as evidenced by the many stories he tells May along the ride, his primary reason for bringing her is so she can operate the spotlight attached to his boat. He needs this, as he can't drive the Junebug and fend off the bats in the tunnel, which he's terribly afraid of at the same time. Normally, he takes one of the teenagers who hang out in the trolley tunnel along for these missions, but since May's there, he brings her instead. During their conversations, he mentions her dad, implying that he's a bit of a family friend. Together, they explore several of the small platforms that aren't totally submerged, looking for salvageable items. It's a fun, short little late-game side quest that allows the player to learn more about the history of Possum Springs and get a deeper insight into May's character at the same time, as she thoughtfully considers each of the items she finds and ends up taking some of them back to her room, allowing the player to personalize her decorations a bit. To end their trip, Mr. Salvi takes May to the far end of the trolley tunnel, where she gets to see the other side of the mural of the dudes. The sight of the mural, abandoned and alone, makes May upset, as many similar images do throughout the game. Mr. Salvi then takes her back to where they started, and the two go their separate ways. It's at this point that things get interesting from a theory perspective, as Mr. Salvi does not appear during the game's epilogue, prompting some to speculate that Mr. Salvi is a member of the cult. But does this hold up under scrutiny? Or is there another explanation for his absence? First off, I can totally understand why people are suspicious of Mr. Salvi. An old dude who takes teenagers and young adults on trips down a dark, abandoned tunnel with him is, definitely pretty sketchy. It's a bad look no matter how you slice it. Even though we have no reason to doubt his intentions, even though it looks to me like he has a genuine interest in the town's history and just wants to make some quick cash off the antiques he finds, it's just not a good look for an adult to put themselves in a position like this in this day and age. But that having been said, we can't brand someone as a cult member based on vibes alone. If that were the case, then we'd have to consider the possibility that Steve Scriggins is a cult member. So let's take a closer look at Mr. Salvi's personality and beliefs and see what connections to the cult and their ideology we can find. As evidenced by the very nature of his side quest, he does have a strong appreciation for the history and culture of Possum Springs. But I wouldn't call it reverential, as we often see from cult members. He's salvaging items that people lost during the flood so he can sell them to antique stores in neighboring towns. He doesn't collect junk out of respect for the past, he does it to make money. If he were a cult member, he'd probably want to see these items put on display somewhere, like the Historical Society, or returned to the families of the original owners. Honestly, I think the cult would have some serious reservations about what Mr. Salvi is doing here. Furthermore, he has little reaction to the other side of the mural that he shows May at the end of the quest. Maybe it's because he's seen it so many times, but either way, his lack of reaction here is noteworthy. Especially when you consider the fact that Gary from the city council, who I've come to believe is an associate of the cult based on the findings of one of my previous videos, loses his mind over the sight of the vandalized mural of the dudes down at the other end of the trolley tunnel. So if Mr. Salvi were a cult member, I think it's logical to assume that he would be tempted to fall to his knees and genuflect at the sight of this thing, no matter how many times he might have seen it. But I think the most damning proof that Mr. Salvi is unlikely to be a cult member is that he's afraid of bats. If bats are in the trolley tunnel, then it's likely that they're in the mine where the cult has their little murder dad group therapy sessions as well. So I have a hard time believing that Mr. Salvi, as terrified of rats with wings as he is, would even be able to enter the mine, let alone make it far enough down the shaft of Eldritch Doom to reach the hole where the Black Goat resides. So if Mr. Salvi isn't in the cult, then why is he missing from the epilogue? Well, from a gameplay perspective, he is a one-off character, so the developers might not have seen a reason to include him. But there's a perfect story explanation, one that I think should satisfy just about everyone. As mentioned earlier, Mr. Salvi is a landscaper. On the day of the epilogue, the first snow of the season is falling on Possum Springs. Considering how hilly the area's terrain is, preparing for winter weather is quite a task for the town's citizens. I'll bet Mr. Salvi, being the savvy businessman that he is probably gearing up his snowplows and snowblowers so he can make some good, hard-earned money off the elements, much like he does by taking May into the flooded regions of the trolley tunnel. Thanks for watching. We're just about done taking a look at potential cult members, but I love making these videos, so I'm more than willing to cover any characters you have questions about. If there are any other characters you suspect of being cult members, let me know, and I'll consider making a video about them. But next up, I have a very special video coming your way, as we'll be taking a look at 3 characters who we never see in the game, but who have plenty of reason to be cult members. To help bring these mysterious figures to life, I've enlisted the aid of the amazing Jordi, Jaen, Moreno. So be sure to tune in next time, as we take a look at Dan McConnell, Creek, and Dr. Hank and speculate about their ties to the cult of the Black Goat. Huge shout out to my Night in the Woods collaborators Jordi, Jaen, Moreno, and Wolf.Godwin for my channel art and music for my videos. See you guys next time.